Hello everyone, thank you for joining us in this lesson. Today we are going to look at control flows. We'll look at if-else statements, look at using loops with different keywords, and then complete the lesson by showing a few examples. We'll start by creating a new project as usual, so I'll use cargo new here. I'm gonna call my project control flow, browse into it, open my src main.rs, and let's start coding a simple condition. So I'm going to declare a small variable here, and then I'm going to do a condition that starts with if x equals 4, println this is the correct number. Let's run this. Now, if you're familiar with Java or any other programming languages, you would have seen conditional statement with if and else. In the case of C and C++, probably the if is followed with parentheses. In Rust, that does not happen. It's essentially just the keyword if and then the actual statement straight after. Of course, you can add multiple conditions. So if I wanted to check if x is less than 4, then I'll have a condition here, else if, and same with this one, else if greater than 4, then equals that. Let's have a look here. Of course, make sure you put the variable x at the beginning, and then we'll just copy the statement, and let's put a meaningful statement here. So x is less than 4, and then here x is greater than 4. Let's try and run it again. Cargo run. So it compiled successfully. So if I were to change this to 3, for example, and run it again. So here we successfully demonstrated multiple conditions, one after another, to do a simple comparison. One thing to note here is that if is an expression. If you recall from the previous lesson, expressions return values. So let's try and prove the point here. I am gonna put a message variable, and then I am going to use the if expression here. I'm going to do simple comparison. If x equals 3, then just return something along these lines here. This is the right number. Otherwise, just return a simple text saying, sorry, this is the wrong number. Okay. Now, the interesting thing, as I said, because if is an expression, it will actually return either of these strings depending on the value of x. So in our case here, because we haven't changed x at line 2, it will return the string here. This is the right number. Let's print the message. There you go. This is the right number. And of course, our warning disappeared because we eventually have used the variable message at line 5 in the println macro. Let's move on to loops. If you recall from our previous lesson, we've seen two keywords already regarding loops. We've used the while loop and the infinite loop with the loop keyword. Okay, so let's start with the infinite loop. Well, when I say infinite, you need to put some safeguards in there to break out of that loop, right? But let's try and do an infinite loop and see what happens. Println infinite loop, and I'm gonna run this, let it run. And then the way to break out of this right now is to do Control C, because there's no other way, right? We haven't put a condition there to break out of the loop. But just to prove the point, let's run it. There you go. So it's running. If I scroll down, you can see it continuously printing infinite loop in my terminal. Let's break out of that with Control C. That's in Windows. And the same thing is in Mac and Linux as well. There you go. Now let's put a condition. So let's put a simple condition here. So if x is now less than 0, go ahead and break out of that loop and continuously decrement x by 1. Okay. The minus needs to come here. I need to declare the x as mutable, if you recall. Let's clear the screen. Cargo run. It's printing 4 statements here, and the reason for that is because I've got my println at line 5 before the condition to check whether x is equal or less than 0. So if you want to make sure that you only print 3 statements, you have to take out println from line 5 and put it at line 9. That way you can ensure that you only have 3 statements printed. So of course the order here matters. Let's run it again. An interesting thing with loop here is that you can actually return a value from the loop expression itself. So we can do something like this. And you have to do it straight after break. And let's just return the x here. Let's type in let result, all that in there. Let's close our statement here. And then let's print it. This is the resulting x placeholder. And then result. Let's do cargo run. There you go. Of course, you can also use while loops. So for example, here at line 4, we're using the keyword loop to decrement x. Well, with while loop, it's even easier to do this sort of thing. So let's just delete all of this here. And let's go while x is greater or equal than 0. Println my loop is running. Okay, and then we decrement x like so, and let's run it. Again, as you can see, it's printing 4 statements here, so you can only print 3 if you'd like by just removing the equal from there, and it will print 3. Moving on to the final looping keyword here, and it is one of my favorite ones. It's the for loop. So with for loop, you can do pretty much what we've seen here with while and the loop keyword by just doing something like so. In fact, we don't need this variable, so let's just put an underscore here, and we'll go from 0, and we'll use the range to x, and then we'll try and reverse it from here. Okay, so this should print me 3 statements only. Let's give that a go here. Cargo run, there you go. Loop is running 3 times. All we did here is using the for loop keyword. The reason for the underscore is that I am not going to use this variable. If I wanted to use this variable, I'll give it a name, and then I'll use it at line 5, for example, in the println placeholder. And then I'm using the range. So in this case, it'll be iterate through the range of 0 to x, which is 3. And then I'm using the reverse function here. And all that does really is basically it reverses the range for you. So if you were to use it this way, for example, let me call this variable I, and then add a placeholder here. You will see that because I used the reverse function, it's going to count backwards essentially, right? 210. There you go, 210 there. Okay. Now, if I did not want to use the reverse function and I just want to use a simple range, I'll just take the parentheses away, keep everything, and then it starts indexing from 0. Let's try that. There you go, 0, 1, 2. Okay, you can also loop through arrays. So let me create a simple integer array here, and I'm going to give it reverse numbers 3, 2, 1, 0. So this array has 4 elements. Let's try and loop through it. So again, you can loop through an array by using the iterator function. You just call iter essentially, parentheses, and then we should see 4 print statements in the command line. If you want to be a little bit more clever here and you've got some static values that you want to run, you can also replace that this way and run it again. Okay, let's do something clever here and try and do reverse, see if that works. You can also reverse your iteration of elements this way. And this is it for this lesson. Thank you again, and I will see you in the next one.